Soul contracts revealed, what you must discover before midnight or lose it forever. The clock ticked ominously as the last rays of the sun dipped below the trees, casting strange shadows over the small town of Maplewood. There was an undercurrent of chaos in the air, thick enough to cut through like a heavy fog spilling secrets. Folks were talking, voices hushed, eyes wide with shared fear. They were saying that each soul in town carried an invisible contract that linked them to the universe in a way no one fully understood yet. And tonight, those contracts would either break or bind them forever. Clara, a quiet girl with wild, tangled hair, felt her pulse quicken. She could almost hear the whispers of hidden truths curling around her thoughts. Last week, her grandmother had mentioned something about these soul contracts, how everyone had one, and how they could be contested at any moment, often without warning. The very idea sent shivers down Clara's spine. What happens if a contract broke? What did it mean for the soul? And how would one even know? As night began to creep in, an inexplicable chill wrapped around the town. Clara stepped under the flickering streetlight that buzzed dismally in the growing dark. It felt alive, pulsing with energy like it could reveal what was to come. She felt a lump form in her throat. Was this just a myth swirling around the town? Or was it some secret message from beyond? A neighbor's scream cut through the night air, snapping Clara from her thoughts. It was sharp, raw, like a knife carving through her mind, making her heart race. Immediately, a small crowd began to gather, faces illuminated by the glow of the streetlight. What had happened? Did you hear? Someone exclaimed through trembled breaths. Old man Peters went missing last night and they found his contract. Eyes locked in horror, mouths gaped open. It was a shadow that loomed over them all. The old man's mysterious disappearance was no longer a normal town gossip, it was a siren call, echoing louder than the distant clang of the bell tower. Time was slipping away. The urgency thickened the air around Clara, akin to standing on the edge of a cliff, fearing she might tumble into shadowy depths. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clara's heart raced as she stared into the faces around her, each one etched with concern, each soul reflecting a deep-rooted fear. What if the contracts they all carried weren't just connections, but curses? As the clock struck 9, a cold breeze kicked up, carrying whispers of ancient promises laying dormant within every individual. Clara knew time was running out. She had to uncover what lurked under the surface. What if the truth could save them or plunge them deeper into darkness? With her chest tight and mind swirling, she took a step back toward home, the echoes of the gathering fading behind her. But in the shadows, something beckoned, a truth she couldn't ignore. What awaited her within those whispered contracts, hidden in the night? And as the moon climbed higher in the sky, illuminating the secrets below, would she find the answers before midnight claimed them all? Clara's breath hitched as she turned towards home, each step pounding against the ground like a frantic heartbeat. The fear in the air was almost palpable, wrapping around her like an icy embrace. What contract did she carry? What horrors could be revealed about her own soul? Shadows danced around her, as if whispering secrets only the dark could understand. Arriving at her front door, Clara paused. Her hands trembled as she turned the knob, the wood creaking like a warning. Inside, the familiar scent of lavender and old paper greeted her. Her grandmother's books lined the shelves, stacked with tales of magic and destiny. She had to search for answers, to understand what connected each resident, including herself, to the otherworldly contracts. With a swift motion, Clara pulled a book from the shelf, Whispers of the Contract. The pages fluttered like nervous butterflies, landing on a passage about confronting one's fate. Her fingers traced over the words, but they felt ominous, looming like a cloud of darkening skies. If soul contracts could be contested, who controlled that power? The rush of thoughts flooded her mind as she sank onto the couch. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house. Clara's heart raced as she shot up, adrenaline sparking her nerves. Was it just her imagination, or was there something lurking in the shadows? The urgency left her no choice, she had to check. As she tiptoed through the hallway, the sound of brittle glass crashing on the floor sent a chill crawling down her spine. Clara reached the kitchen, bracing herself against the doorframe. A shattered picture frame lay sprawled across the counter, its contents reflecting a distorted view of her family, her grandmother smiling, alive, just before the rumors of the soul contract surfaced. She glimpsed movement out of the corner of her eye. A figure hunched and cloaked emerged from the shadows behind the pantry. Clara felt the air thicken, pressing against her lungs. "Who's there?" She managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure emerged, revealing a familiar face twisted in despair. It was Sarah, a childhood friend. "Clara. We need to talk." Her eyes were wide, frantic. "It's happening. The contracts are awakening." Clara stepped back, confusion flooding her. "What do you mean? What's happening? I need to understand." "They're not just contracts, Clara," Sarah whispered urgently. "They're binding us. If we don't act before midnight, we'll all become part of something darker, something beyond our control." Shivers ran down Clara's spine. "But what can we do?" As Sarah spoke, shadows flickered and darkened around the room, intensifying the room's ominous atmosphere. Clara felt the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing down, as if the house itself was eavesdropping. "The contract revealed to me, Clara. I saw the choices, the stakes. You're not just any soul, you've got a key." "What key?" Clara breathed, her heart racing. The key to either breaking the chain or falling deeper into it, but before Sarah could continue, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Clara's gut twisted. Was it the witching hour approaching, or something far worse? In the silence that followed, a low, menacing laugh echoed from the depths of the house. It wasn't human. Clara's pulse quickened, panic tightening around her throat. A sudden surge of determination coursed through her. She wouldn't let fear bind her. "Show yourself!" she shouted, her voice breaking the stillness, a challenge to the shadows whispering secrets only she could hear. And just then, the clock in the hall struck 10. What would they uncover as the shadows moved closer, and would Clara find the truth before it devoured them whole? The echo of the clock reverberated in Clara's ears, each chime punctuating the thick silence that enveloped her. Shadows crept closer, swirling like smoke around her. She could feel Sarah's presence, a heartbeat away, but the darkness was becoming oppressive, almost alive. Clara's mind raced. The words, "You've got a key," looped through her thoughts. What did that mean? What could she possibly unlock? The looming presence of something unseen sent chills down her spine. "Sarah!" she called out, desperate. "Do you have any idea what that key is?" But Sarah's voice came out as a whisper, barely audible against the backdrop of creaking wood and rattling windows. It's inside you, Clara. Your answers hide behind the shadows of your own choices." An icy gust swept through the room, causing the flickering candlelight to dance erratically. The sensation felt like fingers grazing over her skin, and Clara gasped, stepping back. The figure who had laughed lay somewhere in the darkness, waiting. "Show yourself!" Clara commanded again, her voice stronger this time, empowered by fear and determination. But the room remained still, a mausoleum of specters, heavy with foreboding. Suddenly, the air crackled with energy and the shadows began to shift in response. A form slowly materialized at the edge of the dim light, a face obscured, but eyes glimmering with a sinister light. The laugh echoed again, closer now. Fear not, little Clara, it hissed, the voice oily and thick. I'm merely a guide or perhaps an overseer. The contracts have chosen you, and you've chosen unwisely. Clara backed away, heart pounding. I don't know what you're talking about. I refuse to be a part of this. Refusal is futile when destiny has already marked your path, it sneered. You're woven into the fabric of this game. Choose wisely, or your past will ensnare you. Game? Sarah whispered in horror. Clara shook her head, grasping onto whatever clarity she could find. What do you want from us? Her voice was thinner now, quivering with doubt. The figure thrived on her fear, a predator backlit by the flickering candle flames. What I want, dear Clara, is quite simple. Knowledge. Power. Chaos. You possess the key to this trifecta. Do you know why the other residents have all but disappeared? The figure leaned closer, its breath twisting with the scent of death. Clara swallowed hard, remembering the faces she'd seen at gatherings, red eyes and haunted expressions. They're trapped, aren't they? A chuckle interrupted her thoughts. Indeed. And soon, you may join them. The contracts bind them to their fates, and you, my dear, whether by choice or circumstance, will define the next cycle ahead. Fear clawed at her insides like a caged animal. Tell me how to break this. Ah, but would you risk your own choice for freedom? The longer you wait to decide, the more torment awaits. Midnight approaches, and every passing moment binds you tighter. Clara glanced to Sarah, who looked equally lost. What if we all bind or break free together? Could we fight back? The figure straightened, the shadows swirling around it like a cloak. Unity in defiance is a powerful thing, but can you be trusted? Will you turn against your own? When the clock strikes, even the strongest bond can wither in the face of desperation. A noise erupted from the hallway, a wild wind forcing its way through the house, rattling the windows, pushing against her, urging her to take action. Clara felt her breath quicken, the weight of inevitability pressing down hard. Choose now, Clara. The specter whispered intensely, 1,000 promises and threats woven into its tone. With the clock ticking ominously toward 11, Clara's heart raced. Shadows reached out like fingers, pulling at her thoughts, clouding her vision. Did she have the strength to confront their destiny? Would she dare defy the darkness and challenge her fate? Or would she succumb to the binding chains of her contract? Time was slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. The weight of 1,000 souls pressed upon her, their cries muted by her indecision as the shadows prepared to close in, but behind it all, within the darkness, a flicker of hope began to ignite. What if the truth she sought was more dangerous than she'd ever imagined? The clock struck 11. The clock's chime echoed hauntingly through the air, a relentless reminder that time was running out. Clara felt each stroke like a hammer against her chest. The figure before her vibrated with malevolent glee as if feeding off her fear, its aura pulsing with dark energy. She gripped Sarah's hand, squeezing tightly, searching her friend's eyes for reassurance. Sarah's voice trembled. What if we can't break free? Don't say that. Clara shot back, though she felt the truth claw at her. The shadows began to twist and sway, as if caught in a dance of despair. The laughter of the figure echoed ominously, filling the space with a chilling resonance. Hope, my dear Clara, is but a fragile candle against the wind. The moment you hesitate is the moment you're lost, it crooned, closing the distance between them. Clara's heart raced, panic threatening to drown her reason. What's the key? She shouted, desperation lacing her words. What am I supposed to unlock? The figure leaned closer, its voice now soft, almost conspiratorial. Why, the key is your truth, your choices, your regrets. Each shadow carrying the weight of your past. Only by embracing them can you unlock the power to escape this cycle. Embrace them? Clara felt bile rise in her throat. You mean accept the pain? I can't but therein lies the rub. It laughed, a sound that curdled her blood. Freedom is birth from understanding, dear child. Until you face every specter, the game shall continue. The shadows pressed in tighter, a swirling whirlwind of torment and sorrow. Clara could see faces, those of the lost residents, skimming the edges of the darkness, their mouths silently screaming. The realization crashed over her like a tidal wave. These were not just fears to confront, they were memories woven into her very being. Why did you choose to forget? The figure taunted, its eyes glimmering like shards of glass. Why did you lock them away? The dread clawed deeper. Clara wished she could turn back time, but the ticking clock forced her forward. She closed her eyes, taking a shaky breath. What if I choose to confront them together with Sarah? The figure's grin widened. Unity at its finest. But, will you both have the strength to face the truth together? When it comes to survival, even the closest of bonds can fray. Are you willing to risk everything? Together, Clara said, her voice steadying. We can do this. If we face it together. The wind howled, rattling the window panes, drowning out her words. But the flicker of hope within her grew brighter. It was a gamble, but she was willing to take it. Huddling close to Sarah, the room around them began to pulse with energy. Okay, we need to summon them. Clara shouted, standing tall. Show us what we need to face. As she spoke, shadows twisted and contorted, revealing a path through the darkness. Faces emerged, and with them, snippets of memories she had buried, the choices she made in her youth. Joy and sorrow danced together, creating a chaotic tapestry of her past, yet just as Clara felt herself stepping forward, her heartbeat quickening with purpose, the spectre's voice echoed ominously, too late, little Clara. Midnight approaches, and I'll not be so easily deceived. The clock ticked louder, each chime now striking like a whip, pushing her to the edge. Would she have the strength to face the truth lurking within those shadowy figures? As the final hour approached, Clara felt the tendrils of darkness claw at her mind, whispering doubts that threatened to swallow her whole. Just then, the laughter erupted once more, echoing throughout the room like an insidious melody. What if she wasn't just facing shadows, but unleashing something far worse, something that couldn't be reeled back in? With a surge of adrenaline, she clenched her fists, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. But just as she squared her shoulders, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into a darkness heavier than before. Fear gripped her throat. Had she made the right choice? Would the clock strike 12 before they found what they needed? In the depths of that looming darkness, the faintest whisper slithered through, everything you fear will soon be laid bare if you can endure until the clock strikes midnight. The darkness closed in, thick and suffocating, wrapping around Clara and Sarah like a living thing. Shadows writhed at the edges of their vision, and the laughter of the figure pulsated through the air, an oppressive reminder of the stakes they faced. Clara felt the weight of her past bearing down on her, every regret and choice pressing harder than the night itself. Clara, I can't breathe. Sarah gasped, her voice cracking as she struggled to hold on. The shadows seemed to react, swirling with more intensity, as if their discomfort was the very fuel for the figure's delight. We have to face them. We have to, Clara urged, though her own voice was laced with doubt. The very fabric of the shadows shimmered, and she felt their collective anguish. Suddenly, the path illuminated by wavering light flickered again, revealing a visage she barely recognized, a younger version of herself, wide-eyed with innocence. Clara's breath caught in her throat. This was the girl who made choices without knowing their consequences. This was the girl she used to be. Look at her, Clara. The figure taunted, hovering above the scene like a predator. The choices you made, the innocence you squandered, it feeds the shadows. Can you defend her against her own failures? Clara's heart raced as she stepped closer to the figure of her younger self, torn with a mix of sorrow and guilt. You have to face it, Clara. It's part of you. She yelled through the darkness. But the words felt feeble against the judgments swirling around them. With a burst of bravery, Clara reached out, desperate to bridge the gap between her past and present. "You don't have to be afraid," she cried, fighting against the urge to pull away. "I'm right here." The shadowy figure shifted, dark energy bending toward her words as if intrigued, yet the laughter that followed felt more like mockery. "Face it now, Clara. Embrace her mistakes, or risk losing everything." As Clara stared into her younger self's eyes, she felt a flood of emotions. Every fracture in her heart, every choice that had led to this moment came rushing back. Each laugh with friends, each tear shed in solitude spun a complex web that felt suffocating yet liberating. Could she truly embrace that version of herself? But before she could answer, the darkness wrapped tighter, sealing her in a cocoon of despair. The shadows shrieked, voices blending into a cacophony that echoed her thoughts back at her. "You wanted to forget. You wanted to hide. Stop!" Clara yelled, anguish spilling from her as she clutched her head. "I did try to forget. I thought it would protect me." But at that moment, she realized, it wasn't protection, it was imprisonment. The figure leaned in closer, its breath cold and clammy. "Then prove it. To release the shadows, you must own them. Only by accepting truth can you break free. Will you, Clara? Will you reclaim her?" With a deep breath, Clara steadied her resolve. "I will not run anymore," she shouted, her voice fierce, cutting through the shadows like a knife. The atmosphere crackled with energy, and she reached out for her past self, heart racing with an electric charge of intent. As they connected, a blinding pulse of light erupted, scattering the shadows momentarily. Clara gasped as a wave of memories flooded through her, embracing every choice, every regret, spinning around like a tornado, and with them came the voices of the lost residents, rising in protest. Yet in that chaos, Clara felt a surge of warmth. The connection to her younger self ignited a spark of hope. Could this be the key? In that very moment, she sensed the clock ticking down to midnight, sharp and piercing. Just as the shadows began to regroup, coiling angrily around her and Sarah, a new presence emerged, the silhouette of a figure long buried in Clara's heart, someone she thought she had left behind. "Time is running out. Will you merge your past and your present? Can you risk everything to embrace what you truly are?" Clara's heart thundered. She felt a pull to answer both the question and the darkness. This was no ordinary decision, it was a wager. On her very soul. But would the truth be too much to bear? As shadows lunged, Clara stood firm, the clock's hands inching closer to that fateful hour, and a solitary thought echoed in her mind: can she withstand the storm of her own making? The last chime reverberated ominously. Would they unleash salvation or fall deeper into the abyss? All hinged on the final choice, and time was slipping away. The light from Clara's connection with her younger self hung in the air, dazzling like a beacon in the shroud of darkness. For a brief moment, Clara felt invincible. But the shadows couldn't be held at bay for long. They recoiled initially, then rushed forward, a wave of rage that sought to drown her. "No!" she screamed, feeling Sarah's grip tighten around her arm, panic etched across her friend's face. "Stay with me." The shadows hissed, swirling in a frenzy, voices rising like a tempest. "You can't accept the truth. You can't face her," they cried, clawing at her resolve. Each word felt like a thorn, pricking her mind. With every beat of her heart, a vision surged through Clara. Fleeting moments of laughter, joy, despair, they converged into a smothering fog of memories. She was in high school again, sitting by a window, watching life go by, filled with naive dreams. Then the betrayals, all the times she had chosen to ignore her truth, to hide from her mistakes rather than learn from them. "Clara, we have to get out of here." Sarah's voice was nearly lost, drowned beneath the rising sea of shadows. "No. I have to do this." Clara's breath heaved as she fought against the swirling mass, still clasping her younger self's hand. She felt the connection pulsing between them, a bridge to the girl she had abandoned. Face it. The laughter of the figure crackled through the air, mingling with the screams of the shadows. Let her go. She will only drag you down. But Clara's determination ignited, fueled by a raw sense of urgency. You're wrong. She's part of me, and I will not let you take her. As she declared this, a storm of light erupted from their connection, slashing through the remnants of her past. Clara dug deep within her soul, feeling the heat surge. She knew every regret, every choice had shaped her, but they didn't define her. With every ounce of strength, she faced the whisperings of the past head-on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for ignoring you. In that moment, shadows churned wildly, caught between fury and confusion. Sarah gasped, eyes wide, as the darkness began to shimmer, as if unsure whether to strike or retreat. Can she really face it? Her friend whispered, a touch of hope flickering in her voice. Yes. Clara cried out, tears streaming down her cheeks. And I choose to embrace it. I choose me. The shadows recoiled, a howl echoing from their depths. Clara felt the tumult begin to shift. A fierce, blinding light surged through her, illuminating the chaos around them. The faces of lost residents emerged from the dark, flickering like candlelight. They seemed to call out, offering support, hope, and fragmented memories of strength. Will you guide us? She asked, her voice strong yet tender, addressing the echoes of both the living and the lost. I choose to fight. The clock's mournful chime echoed, reverberating through the cavern of shadows that threatened to consume them. As the final note rippled through the darkness, the figure manifested in front of her, a grotesque mockery of all her fears. Are you really ready? It sneered, twisting her past and future into something grotesque, a blurred reflection of herself. You think you can conquer me with acceptance? Clara shook her head, heart racing but fierce. I don't just accept my past, I reclaim it. The light intensified. Clara felt her heart race with adrenaline, pulsating in tune with both her younger self and the combined strength of the reflections around her. And then something shifted, a crack began to form in the shadows. No! The figure screeched, lunging forward with indistinct fury, the concatenation of past energies, of every choice made, surged forward, binding Clara, Sarah, and the shimmering echoes. But just as the darkness began to splinter, Clara caught sight of an ominous shape in the shadows, larger and more menacing than before. There was something it held back, something crucial yet terrifying. Clara! Sarah cried out, fear and determination laced in her voice. What if facing it means losing everything? Clara clenched her fists, feeling the weight of truth in the air. Then let us find out. But what lay ahead was cloaked in enigma. Was the answer to their freedom or their undoing hidden in the heart of that dreaded shadow? The air crackled with tension, and the answer loomed as they stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to embrace the unknown. Time was running out, and the question lingered, would Clara conquer the storm, or would it consume her in its fury? The shadows swirled ominously, pressing down like a heavy fog. Clara felt the weight of their rage against her skin, a chilling reminder of the fears she had buried beneath layers of silence. This was it. The moment where she had to confront not just what haunted her, but the very thing that had held her true self hostage. Clara! Sarah's urgent whisper sliced through the thick air. We can't just stand here. But Clara couldn't move. She was entranced, her gaze locked on the pulsating shape that loomed larger, its features indistinct and blurred. Somewhere within that darkness was a truth that had evaded her grasp for far too long. You win. She shouted, voice cracking but defiant. You'll never take her from me again. The figure howled, its voice booming and reverberating through the cavern. You think you can fight me? I am every doubt, every shame you've ever felt. You are nothing without me. Clara clenched her hands into fists, grounding herself in the moment. Memories surged like tidal waves, each one threatening to engulf her. She saw the times she'd chosen fear over love, the moments she let betrayal shape her reality. But as the visions crashed against her consciousness, she began to breathe through them, refusing to let them drown her. "No! You are not my truth!" Clara shouted. "I'm reclaiming my narrative." With the force of her declaration, the storm of light brightened further. Clara felt the warmth of familiar presences around her, the echoes of friends lost, lovers abandoned, and dreams forgotten. They weren't gone, they were part of her, fueling her resolve. "Together!" she exclaimed, her voice rising above the chaos, summoning the spirits that flitted around her like fireflies in the dark. "Join me! Let us break this cycle!" With that rallying cry, the glimmers of light surged toward the growing figure, illuminating its sinister edges. The creature hissed and recoiled, a cascade of shadows flaring brightly like 1,000 stars exploding. "No!" it roared, its anger palpable, causing the very air to tremble. "You cannot escape my grasp." Clara felt Sarah's hand squeeze her arm hard. "We must push. We can't lose now." The shape and the shadows began to split, revealing layers of Clara's life she had tried so hard to forget. All the moments when she felt unworthy, every time she believed the pain defined her. "Let it go!" Sarah yelled, her voice piercing like a dagger. "Let it all go!" Clara took a deep breath, focusing on the shimmering connection between her and her younger self. It pulsed with an energy that reminded her of the joy, the laughter, and the courage she once held. The shadows faltered, shrinking from the light, but what remained the core of her darkness was still looming large and fierce. "We are stronger together!" Clara shouted again, and with every fiber of her being, she thrust her arms forward, pushing against the shadow monster with every ounce of life within her. "Stop!" it screeched, twisting and writhing in anguish. "You'll regret this." Then the air thickened, an unsettling silence descending as everything seemed to pause. Clara's heart beat deafeningly in her ears, the shadows looming, fluctuating between attack and retreat. She caught glimpses of flickering images, glimpses of what she could lose: peace, love, her true self. "Clara, focus!" Sarah's voice broke through, steadying her. "Focus on what you truly want." In that moment, clarity washed over her. She wasn't fighting just for herself, she was fighting for every part of her: the laughter, the compassion, the bits she'd cast aside. She was fighting for freedom, and just when it seemed like the shadows would envelop her, Clara pushed deeper, summoning every shattering memory, every regret, and intertwining them with hope. "I am done hiding," she proclaimed, her voice echoing with newfound strength, reverberating within the bowels of the darkness that surrounded them. The shadow figure convulsed, caught in the blast of light and truth. "Wait!" it bellowed, a sharp edge of fear slicing through the darkness. "What lies ahead could be worse than anything you could ever imagine." Clara's heart raced as she sent another surge of light spiraling toward the figure, feeling the collective strength of her past, present, and hopes rushing through her. She was not afraid anymore, but as the shadow began to split apart, revealing what lay hidden at its core, Clara's breath caught in her throat. What was hidden beyond the veil could be the very key to setting them free, or the depth of her darkest nightmare waiting to devour her whole. Time ticked on, and the reckoning approached. Would she emerge victorious, or would she face her ultimate downfall? The question loomed as the light flickered anew, promising either revelation or destruction. The light burst forth like a supernova, shattering the confines of the shadow's layers. Clara squinted, feeling the warmth caress her face while her heart pounded like a tribal drum. As the darkness peeled away, an odd juxtaposition formed: a glittering beacon against an abyss of shadows. Amidst the chaos, the shadow figure roared, twisted in agony. "You think this light will save you?" Its voice was a bitter whisper now, tainted with fear. "The truth you seek is a monster of its own." Clara's chest tightened. What could possibly lurk beneath the surface? The connection she had to her younger self pulsed, urging her on. "Show me," she shouted, willing the shadows to reveal what lay hidden. As the veil lifted further, an image began to emerge. It was a memory long buried, a little girl with wide eyes, sitting alone on a swing, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No one sees me," the small voice echoed in the silence. Clara's heart shattered at the sight. That little girl was her, back when the world had felt too big, too heavy. How many times had she felt invisible, as if she were nothing more than a reflection in the glass? That moment unfolded, a vivid recollection soaked in pain. "See?" The shadow seethed, its power dwindling, but still menacing. "She carries the weight of your failures. You can't hold on to this." "No." Clara breathed, stepping closer to the light, determination coursing through her veins. "I can release her." With each heartbeat, the past flickered faster. Clara watched herself face rejection, deal with loss, and let fear dictate her choices. The sweat clung to her brow, and regret washed over her like icy water. "Why did I let it define me?" she cried out, traversing her inner landscape. The figure shrieked, "You will choose weakness. They will consume you, and I will flourish." The shadows surged backward, but Clara pressed on, the memories lining up behind her. A silent crowd gathered for support. She felt their collective guilt, their joy, each pain, each joy binding them together. "You are not my monster. You are my past, but you will not dictate my future." With a deafening roar, Clara lifted her arms again, and the light erupted one last time, fierce and blinding. The shadows writhed, morphing, trying to cling to the familiar tendrils of despair. But Clara rejected them, feeling the power swell as she summoned every ounce of courage. "I choose love." The shadows split apart, giving way to more images, the faces of friends who stood by her, the family she loved unconditionally, laughter in the sun, and moments chased for their beauty. Each moment bolstered her spirit, illuminating the dark corners where fear had taken root. "Stay back." It was more fearful now. "You don't know what you're doing." But Clara's resolve only grew stronger. With one fierce gesture, she aimed her energy at the creature, sending a burst of light that seemed endless, striking the very core of the shadow's being. The ground trembled as the figure convulsed, the cavern shimmering, colors swirling in every direction. Suddenly, the creature stopped, and a whisper cut through the chaos. "You want the truth? It lies at the heart of your fear. You cannot save the girl, for she is lost." Clara's eyes widened. Every instinct urged her to retreat, but she stood firm. "No. If I can find her, I can save her." Just then, a shadow splintered off from the main figure, darting toward a fissure on the cavern wall. Clara's breath hitched. Inside that jagged opening lay the tiniest sliver of darkness, pulsating a desperate rhythm. "Follow if you dare," the creature taunted, its voice fading into a sinister chuckle. "But there, you'll find what you never wanted to see." Tension mounted, heavy in the air, as Clara turned to Sarah, who met her gaze with unwavering faith. "Can you handle this?" Sarah asked, worry dancing in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, Clara nodded, heart thudding wildly in her chest. "I have to know what awaits. It's the only way to break free." As she stepped closer to the dark fissure, the air around them thickened, shrouded in uncertainty. The choice loomed, heavy and pressing. Would she dare face the truth hidden in the darkness, or would that truth swallow her whole? With the light flickering, she took a step forward, and the shadows beckoned, whispering secrets dripping with fear. As the cavern began to quake beneath her feet, Clara felt the answer within her. But was she ready? The silence climbed, foreboding and thick, as she poised to confront all she had dreaded. What lay ahead could demand her everything or finally set her free. Clara's heart raced as she approached the jagged fissure, the weight of her past pressing against her chest like an anchor. It felt like stepping into someone else's nightmare, where the shadows danced around her, whispering taunts and half-formed memories. But beneath that fear lay an undeniable ember of hope that flickered brighter with each hesitant step. As Clara crossed the threshold into the darkness, the warmth of the light behind her faded into an ominous chill. The air thickened, wrapping around her like a heavy fog, stinging her eyes and clawing at her throat. What will I find? She thought, clutching her hands into fists. Shadows loomed, warp and wane, forming images that sent shivers down her spine. A child in a darkened room, alone. The tear-streaked face of her younger self emerged clearer now, a somber reminder of all she had wished to forget. You left me, the little girl's voice echoed, trapped in a melancholy loop. Clara could feel the weight of impending doom close in around her. No. I didn't mean to. Clara shouted, desperation spilling from her lips. I'm here now. I want to help. I want to be free. But the shadows only twisted in response, revealing more fragmented memories. A bullying taunt whispered in her ear, then fading into silence, an empty playground, flickers of betrayed trust, missed chances that became nooses around her soul. All these moments made you who you are, the creature's voice hissed, chilling her core. You cannot escape them. Clara sank to her knees, the reality of her failures crashing over her like a tidal wave. I was just a child. I tried, but the cries of her younger self pierced her heart. They bore witness to her past, a testimony of every time love and light had abandoned her. Suddenly, a flicker of brightness emerged in the shadows, a glimmer of resilience. Clara inhaled sharply. No, she murmured, forcing herself to rise. I'm done being a prisoner of my fears. With renewed determination, she raised her hand toward the shadows. I will not let doubt control me any longer. I choose to confront you. The shadows recoiled, writhing violently. For every inch Clara pushed forward, they pushed back harder, their cold tendrils grasping at her resolve. This is your last chance. The dark figure raged, a cacophony of voices echoing in unison. Clara felt the pulse of light inside her, growing, spreading warmth through her chest. I can face this, she whispered fiercely, finding strength she didn't know she possessed. I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. She summoned every ounce of light she had left, pushing through the pain. The darkness erupted around her, unleashed by her defiance. Memories merged in a whirlpool of half-formed fears, and with that, a new image emerged, one of her younger self standing tall, a smile blooming like a spring flower, surrounded by golden light. Clara's heart swelled, recognizing the possibility within the depths of their connected souls. We are more than our fears. She cried out, urgency electrifying her voice. As the two willed each other towards a shared light, shadows recoiled, vibrating with discord. But even as pieces of fear began to crumble, the main figure advanced with a menacing hiss. You think you can change the fate written for you? It snarled, the ground trembling at its presence. Clara locked eyes with the embrace of her younger self, a silent vow exchanged. Together, they faced the darkness, ready to unearth the truth resting at their feet. Suddenly, the screech of the creature dissolved into chaos, flickering and stretching as if the fabric of their shared reality was unraveling. In that moment, Clara grasped the tension swirling around them. The stakes were higher than ever. They would either emerge unscathed or succumb to the shadows forever. Will you choose to face what is hidden in the depths, or turn away from your destiny unfulfilled? The question echoed deep within her. Time was slipping through her fingers like sand. Could she find the courage to confront the truth before it was too late? As she braced herself for the unknown, the world around her began to darken, an impending sense of finality hanging in the air. The boundaries between child and adult, light and shadow, blurred, preparing for a revelation that could change everything. The darkness loomed, a trembling entity gathering strength, but Clara stood firm, her heart pounding with a fury she hadn't known she possessed. She felt the warmth of her younger self echoing through her, and with that came a fierce resolve. They would face this together, every fragment, every mistake. In that moment, their souls intertwined, an electric current binding their fates. Show us the truth. Clara shouted, her voice a war cry, an anthem of defiance against the tide of despair. As she spoke, shadows surged, snapping and snarling, but Clara could feel their strength dwindling as light pierced through the cracks. The figure conjured from her doubts quaked, its form shattering against the brilliance of their unified spirit. "You're nothing without me," it roared, but Clara, fueled by every unflinching memory, pressed on. "No. You've been my prison, but I am breaking free," she declared. That self, standing alone so many years ago, needed her now. Clara's heart swelled as she summoned that courage, casting the heaviness of the past aside, shedding the chains that had bound her for so long. "I will not deny you any longer." As if in response to her rejection, the ground trembled like thunder beneath them. The darkness writhed, but Clara and her younger self burned with brilliance, bright enough to scald the shadows and unveil the vulnerability hidden beneath. "Now," Sarah urged, standing strong beside Clara, paralleled in spirit. Together, their voices melded in power, cutting through the chaos, coaxing their fears into the light. Suddenly, the swirling mass of shadow recoiled, and Clara caught sight of her younger self emerging fully, eyes still brimming with tears, but now glowing with impossible strength. It was a moment of true reflection. They were no longer enemies, but allies. "I choose love," Clara proclaimed, and with that choice, light exploded outward, banishing darkness to the corners of oblivion. Every fear dissipated in an eruption of luminescence as the figure writhed and screeched. It was beautiful and terrifying, a reckoning that shook the very foundation of what it meant to exist within the web of the universe. The shadows peeled away, leaving behind the luminous depths of shared memory. With every layer that fell away, Clara felt the burden lifting from her soul. The figure twisted in a frenzy, shrinking as light illuminated what had hidden beneath the veil, revealing a young girl lost but not forgotten who faced herself bravely. "Say you're sorry," the young Clara whispered, tears glimmering as she extended a hand filled with forgiveness. Each heartbeat surged, matching the pulse of hope filling Clara's chest. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all the moments I ran from you," she cried, and warmth enveloped them like a soft embrace as shadows melted away completely. The dark figure shrieked one last time, a haunting wail fading into the ether, leaving Clara and her friends standing inside a shimmering cocoon of light. The air lightened, filled with warmth and clarity, and around them, the spectral forms of the town's missing residents began to materialize. "Clara!" Sarah exclaimed, eyes wide. "We did it! We freed them!" Hope radiated through the atmosphere, drawing each lost soul back into the light of understanding. Faces once cloaked in despair beamed with a newfound radiance. Clara reached out, her hand moving through the warmth of healing love as the lost souls surrounded them in a protective circle, but in this moment of joy, Clara felt a tug at her heart, the realization that the journey had only just begun. This was the beginning of understanding, of stitching together the fabric of their shared humanity. They had survived this test, but they must continue to embrace their truths, both beautiful and haunting. "Thank you for setting us free," a familiar voice broke through the silence. It was Old Man Peters, smiling broadly, no longer a shadow but an entity of pure light. Clara felt her heart swell with gratitude. As the clock chimes filled the air and the echoes of midnight dissolved into night, they all stood arm in arm. Bound not just by fate but by choices made and truths embraced. Clara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the world lift. They had reclaimed their power. "Let us not waste this gift," Sarah said softly, exchanging glances with Clara. It was a vow they made to be guardians of these truths, not just for themselves, but for each other, the very essence of their existence. Clara stepped forward, each step lighter, standing at the brink of a new dawn. "Together we are stronger," she declared, eyes shining with determination. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, illuminating Maplewood once more, the townsfolk emerged, blinking against the light. They were here, alive, and freed. Clara smiled brightly, sweeping her arms wide. "Let this be the first day of many more. United, we can explore our truths, our power. We've survived the darkness, and now, we rise." The townsfolk cheered, and a sense of community pulsed through them like an electric current. Clara knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but she was ready, for she had faced the shadows and emerged victorious. With her heart aflame with hope, she was finally home within herself, ready to shine bright for all the world to see, and so, in this small town, in this moment, a new chapter began. But now it's your turn, dear viewers. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread this amazing journey together.